I first became involved in theater before really thinking that I might be a film director. From going from being the person who did the lights and worked on the tech crews of high school shows or what have you, ultimately I became, in my college career, kind of interested in directing, mainly because I was always up on a ladder hanging a light and watching the professor direct the actors, and after a while I got the confidence that I could do it, and I started to do that.
Other than Alexander Korda, who influenced you? I mean, who was shaping the way you thought about film and the way you thought about what you wanted to do with your life?
Well, first I have to say that it was the theater and the work of Tennessee Williams and Elia Kazan. Being a drama student of the 50s, these were the magical names. Of course, Marlon Brando. I really loved and responded, as many people, to Tennessee Williams plays, and read them very young. And in fact, I did a production of Streetcar Named Desire when I was 17 in college. I became a little bit of the boy wonder of Hofstra College. I in fact started the drama club that's still there, the one that I did, and I even tried to start a Hofstra cinema workshop, which in those days, funny how it is now, but I think 2 students came. Well, I wanted to go to the Yale Drama School, and I really wanted to be a playwright. In those days, and it was, it takes years to make a writer, and certainly my efforts as a playwright, although I had a playwriting scholarship at Hofstra, I just was, I just didn't feel that I had any talent, and talent was a big commodity in my family. I mean, my father was, very tough on whether you had the gift of talent or not. At any rate, I didn't feel I had any writing talent, although I would write every day and try, and so I sort of became a director in school almost by default. A young artist needs to know that they can even do it in order to aspire to do things, and I got that at Hofstra. I felt it was very good that I get a good theater basis in theater craft and acting, and then go on to movies. And to this day, for young people, I would very much recommend that they work in the one-act play form and with actors and in theater before they get involved in the movies. And a lot of directors don't have really the experience with working with actors that they might get if they started.
Because what, they go to film school and then go directly to working in the movies and never hit a theater experience?
Even in film school, it's amazing. Really, all over the country, there could be a film department and a theater department, and the students don't mix, they don't know each other. The directing students in the film department will never go and do one-act plays, which is the best thing a film director could do. To first work with the performances and the content without the burden or the obligation of the camera, and then having done some one-act plays and really have a sense of how you help an actor get to what you want, then go on and start to see what's the best way to put a camera to it. But this is what a director does. A director makes decisions, and that's why you want to have someone who's not afraid to make a decision, My point is that what I've learned is that the stuff that I got in trouble for, the casting for The Godfather or the flag scene in Patton, was the stuff that was remembered and was considered really the good work. That's why someone today said you ought to love what you're doing, because, especially in a movie, you really have to love the project and love the story, because you will over the time you really will start to hate it, and the fact that you say, gee, but I really like what this is about, is a very valuable asset. Basically, we always wanted to be independent and control our own destiny with film, and against the idea of the big company that would kind of just use us and tell us what to do. So I developed with some of my friends the idea that we would go around the world and we would make a film that we would finance by getting each country to put up an amount of money as partners in advance. In other words, Italy would put up so much money, France, etc., and we would get the money by getting distribution advances, and therefore we would own the picture. And I knew we could do this, but the question is, John Milius wasn't able to do Apocalypse, turned it down, or said, I can't do it. So it sort of fell to me, and I was the head of the company, and I believed that I could finance it this unique way, which I thought might be a precedent, that we could maybe go on and continue to do that. And by doing that, we would basically build a real company that really could make movies and give new people chances and own the movies. We live in a world right now that, if anything, needs a cinema that sheds light on life and on the relationships of men and women and family and ideals, but in a new form and a new content. Whereas the film industry basically is such an important industry that it by nature must keep manufacturing a product, because it has to have the people go back every day like you do at a fast food thing. So they're into, and when I say the cinema, it's the whole hub of it, the criticism, the studios, everyone wants there just to be basically old content done well. And I feel suddenly, you know, there are all these young people writing scripts, hoping to be discovered, to make their fortune. And I just feel that sooner or later, some, God knows, 19-year-old is going to write a script that's really about life, and that is new, because once again, it's about something real.
You think that's going to happen? I would assume that there must be 50 scripts around.
No, the young
about
people,
that.
They're all writing scripts that's the next Sleepless in Seattle or the next film noir, or no one writes a film about what they think about their brother. And
but are they doing that I mean, that's what Marty started doing too. I mean, he went back and wrote a film, Mean Streets.
Right.
Was about just that, the kind of thing you're talking about,
But that's why it was so welcome. I mean, even then, now all the more, as we live in an age where basically each year, whether it's a sequel or not, it's basically a recycled, and the name of the game, even the critical establishment doesn't want anything really new, because then they have to say whether it's good or bad. They would rather have something. This is always what happens in art. You know, the painters back then wanted a picture that looked like a picture.
But is the piano something new?
I haven't seen the piano yet, because I've been sort of away.
But
my hunch is it's probably not.
Probably not.
Probably not new. I don't know.
Have you seen anything that represents what you're talking about that's really new? Nothing?
No. I kind of took a year off from film, from seeing films, from really everything. Just since I'm 16 years old, this is the first year I took off, just to be able to look at everything with new eyes. And
so you spent a year not watching films, not
Right. Maybe Reservoir Dogs is new. I haven't seen that. My kids tell me it is.
It is. Yeah.
You know. But that's what I think is going to be the next exciting.
Do you want to be part of that?
Sure, to the extent that my weird personality and abilities can be part of that. I think all the time about life and about the big picture of life, which is, spirituality and philosophy and politics and what a new society could be like, and how it could be beautiful, how we can retain the great traditions of the past, which is to say, a book, and at the same time have one foot in the past and have yet one foot in the future, and somehow, this is all I think about. It could be live cinema, there could be live television that is writer-driven, that the whole quality of writing and the thinking and content that is really the most essential part of the cinema could once again get out of this outrageous kind of what they call developmental process, and once again have authors who bring their views, which is their views of life and their views of people, to be at the center of then whatever the cinematic or television product is, and that ultimately perhaps live television. Think about it. Everyone's talking about television and the incredible interconnectivity
and
the
telephone,
channels,
the
telephone, the cables, but yet live television, which is an art form of its own, which we demonstrate in the United States in the 50s, which is writer, which starts with the writer and which can go out live with live performance, and in a way that is less easy for the so-called corporate mind to control, because when you go out live, you're in the hands of the artist. This, to me, is one of the most exciting new fields, and I say new field knowing it's an old field, where the whole world is going to be able to connect with some actors and some writers and some directors, and yet you don't hear a peep about this, in the world. So that very often the things that are at the root and the most interesting is the thing that no one will talk about. So for me, live cinema or performance cinema could be one of the new areas for a person like myself, or anyone who's serious about really interpreting life for the world, which is what art does. I'm a builder.
That's exactly what
I would like to build a city. If someone said to me, what do you want to do? I would say, I want to build a new city. I want to build a new society. I mean, I'm just a builder. So whatever I'm going to get to do shy of that is going to be what I do in these next years. It's what I am. I don't have, you know, my vision we haven't really talked about, but you know, we're living in times that are difficult to navigate through, both in a financial sense, to be able to gain the confidence of those people who control the financial existence of our society, to somehow position yourself correctly in the public perception, which means dealing with the press, which is tricky. My problems that really, when you talk about what happened to me after Apocalypse Now, happened with Apocalypse Now because when we began to be very, very criticized, and I began to be very criticized after I had done so much work, I couldn't believe that a young American was willing to take all his money to go off and make a film about Vietnam should basically not have some people who were like supporting him and saying.
And I would agree with that too.
So
I mean,
I was blown away by it.
You're putting it all on the table.
Yeah, and all I got was, if you look at the stuff they wrote about it, you know, basically I had done this amazing thing by making what was to be considered a classic, Academy Award winner, and then, without even wanting to, asked to do it again, and did it again, and innovated the whole concept
Godfather 1 and 2.
Part 2, and then after that, it was time for my fall. And if you ever asked me why everyone got down on me after Apocalypse Now, which is another classic in some people's eyes, I would answer it and say simply it was the thing to do.
And some have said that it marked something, that it was a turning point in your life, in your career, and that you rolled the dice.
Yeah, but that was
you didn't.
That was the thing to say. I mean, as we know, very often the story is written before the story happens, and all I had to do was to go off to the jungle in this condition and ask for a modicum of privacy, which is, let me try to make this film. And already, as you know, the reports were coming back that, oh, it was a disaster, primarily because no one knew, and it was just a mystery. And the story would to be that the guy who had made The Godfather, and who, despite all odds, made a second Godfather that people thought was as good as the first and made the conversation, was out there somehow failing, because that would be more interesting than if I were out there succeeding. I remember going under my bed, on the floor under my bed, because that's what a man does, because he can't just break out crying at the reaction to Godfather 2, with things that I overheard.
You did what?
I went under the bed, in the space between the bed, just to kind of hide, because I could
We're talking metaphor here, aren't we?
No, we're talking real space under the bed, because there are very few things a man is supposedly allowed to do to express how he feels, but because I sat in a room after a screening and could hear people discussing the picture that didn't know I could hear it, and heard the things they said about Godfather 2, which was...
When you just wanted to go hide, get under the bed. And in fact, you did get under the bed.
I did, because I felt secure under the bed. So a filmmaker, you know, basically put something out there on the table and the people judge it. And usually with me, I have never had a wild hit except for the first Godfather, which was based on a wild hit of a book.
Yeah, that's right.
People were very critical.
They went to see it because they loved the book.
People were very critical of that movie. Marlon Brando mumbles.
They said that, but there was a great praise of his performance in Godfather 1.
Sure, and as time went by, the praise got greater and greater. To me, you know, what can I say? I don't care. But I am saying that when you make unusual films, that you do not tend to get the praise in time that you get 5 or 10 years later. And I already hear people telling me things about movies that got that same mixed reaction. You know, I saw that again. That was really, you know, that was actually, my theory is that when a film is unusual and tries to break new ground, that when it's like a new food that you put in front of a person, I eat that, and you know, I don't like that.
Because I have no...
But 6 years later, I remember that stuff my mother used to make. Wow, I like that better than Hershey bars. So my only point is, first of all, it's not important whether a person is making great films or not, because as we know, what really makes a great film is one thing, whether it lives.
Right.
And that can only really be judged later on. In your own time, usually the stuff that's your best idea or work is going to be attacked the most ferociously, probably because it's new or because they had never seen an opening of a movie like that, or seen a gangster movie done in the style. So you have to really be courageous about your instincts and your ideas, because otherwise you'll just, knuckle under and change it, and then things that might have been memorable will be lost.
Is it the film that you cherish the most?
Not at all.
It's not?
No.
What is?
You asked me a lot about what I thought of my work,
Right.
and I said more or less I really believe that my body of work is all about on the same level. I mean, I have never, my flops, of which every director has, are probably among the more interesting flops than people have.
And did you learn from them?
Sure. Every film I make is an experiment in preparation for the next one. I never really did what it was I intended to do, which was to be really a writer of original material, original stories, original scripts, because I can, that I direct. The only ones who've ever done that's Woody Allen, and to which I take my hat off. I, being a well-trained theater director and versed in musical comedy and the feeling that I could do a comedy, I could do Shakespeare, I could do anything, that worked against me, because what I really wanted to do was to write original material for the cinema and then direct it. And I only did it on 2 occasions, The Conversation and The Rain People, much earlier. And for that reason, I haven't lived up to my expectations. And if I am to live up my expectations in this period of my life, it would be because I do that.
Yeah.